All right, guys, welcome to the first edition of What Did We Just Watch? This is where some of us from the Casual Nerds talk about some of our favorite shows and kind of recap the week's most recent episode and look ahead to what may be coming in. This week we're doing Breaking Bad. There's just one episode left. We just got done watching the next to last episode, and so I've got with me Shaq, and he and I are going to just give our impressions on this next to last episode and talk about what we expect to have happen and what we'd like to see in the season finale.
Yep. So what do we start off with? I mean, I feel like the episode was a little slow, but so much happened, and they kind of kept it towards the end. I guess at the beginning, you could start off with Saul. Is he gone for good? Are we going to see Saul in the season finale?
No, actually, I mean, the way he walked out, I love that. The way, they kind of showed, obviously, Walter losing some of his power, but I really didn't expect those two to cross paths again, actually. And then the fact that they did in this episode was interesting. But, he walked out of Walter's life, and I think that's it. I mean, I don't think there's any way that we saw how well this guy whose name we don't know, who runs vacuum cleaner store and is also apparently like the guy who hit Osama bin Laden.
Right.
We saw how good and how he is at hiding people. He's obviously hiding Walter for months on end, so no reason to believe anyone's ever going to find Saul. So I think he's probably gone.
And so you think it's going to be the goodbye for him? I don't know. Is that a good ending for him? He's such a good part of the show. I don't know if they kind of did him justice. Well, I guess he kind of did because he. First of all, Walter got in his face in an earlier episode. So does this kind of give him justice to him to kind of look at Walter while he's down and go, dude, I'm done, and you don't have anything on me. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
and really I thought he took it pretty well because he's having to give up his whole entire life basically, and pretty much 100% because of Walt. And yet he's kind of giving him friendly advice still. And, at the first point you see him, he comes in, he says, how's he holding up or whatever. So, it just kind of surprised me that Saul doesn't have more animosity towards him, to be honest.
Right, yeah, he did kind of seem like he was, he was making sure Walt was okay before he left. And it's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those strange friendships. It's kind of it's funny because at times it seemed like you thought Jesse and Walt were, close in a way, and obviously Walt cared about Jesse. We've known that. But that obviously all ended with the last few episodes, and so you kind of see that Saul is kind of his friend a little bit, but then he takes it and he tries to become Heisenberg again and start muscling everybody, and at that point, Saul's just like, well, forget you, I'm out of here.
Right, it's you treat me like crap, enough times, I'm gonna just let you be. I'm gonna let you bleed out on your own.
Yep.
Because, he's obviously dying with cancer, and I don't know.
Yeah, and that was one of the coolest things about this episode. Something you and I have talked about many times is those teasers at the beginning of both sections of this season where we see Walt at the end, obviously, and he's got his hair back, and he's got a beard, and he's got a freaking, belt-fed machine gun and all this stuff. And we kind of wondered how that, everything got to that point. I thought this episode was a perfect bridge to that. We see why, because he's stopped taking his chemo and stuff, because he's out in the wilderness. We see, even the glasses, we see where he gets those glasses from that were kind of weird. And
right.
We know that his house has been ransacked and stuff, they talk about that. So it kind of tied everything together. And I think this episode was just kind of that bridge between the one amazing episode last week and what we hope is going to be an amazing finale.
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of faith in this last episode. A little props to AMC for giving us an extra 15 minutes, too. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think they're next week as well.
Right. Yeah, they were saying something an extra 30 minutes total. So that's pretty cool. Back to the episode. So we had the whole Saul. It sucks to see him go, but, we're getting that spinoff, so we'll get him back pretty soon.
Right.
But I kind of hope he comes back. We see him, at least see. It'd be cool if the season ended with, a little catch up on Saul, and he's on a beach in Nebraska or something, or
right.
I don't know if there's any beaches in Nebraska. Sorry, Nebraskan fans, but he's just just to see that he's doing good, because he is one of my favorite characters. I'm glad he's getting his own show, and it'd be kind of cool to make sure he's okay. Now we kind of move over to let's just go with Skylar. I mean, what about the robbers in the house? Those guys obviously in her house messing with her baby. And do you think she's going to run her mouth about anything? Like, I mean, she's obviously doing pretty good to not. I mean, the whole lottery money hasn't come out yet because she'd be in jail. Do you think she's going to come up and fess up and talk, or?
I think she's just going to do whatever she thinks is best for those two kids. I mean, obviously, it's not in her best interest to talk about that lady who's dealing the meth still because she doesn't want her kids to become killed. And those guys pretty effectively showed they could do that even if the cops were around. So I don't think you'll see her ratting that out. I think if the son knew more, he probably would. I mean, we saw his reaction to Walt's phone call. I mean, he obviously doesn't care what happens to Walt or anybody else from that world. So, but I mean, he doesn't know enough to really do any damage. So no, I think actually I'm even more mad at Skylar now than I ever was because also this week we had the Emmys and it was great because Breaking Bad won for the best drama, but somehow Jeff Daniels from Newsroom won Best Actor in a drama and Bryan Cranston was completely snubbed, whereas Skylar, I forget her name, she won for Best Actress.
Really?
Yeah, which is freaking ridiculous. So Skylar won and Walter didn't, which I think is just completely absurd. So that just made me hate her even more.
Yeah, I know Breaking Bad got some awards. I didn't know the extent of it, but for sure. So we get past Skylar. Do you think we're going to see a lot of her in the season finale, or because we really didn't see her that much in this episode?
Yeah, I mean it's obviously going to be focused on Walt, and honestly, there's a lot of ground to cover still. So I mean, it's one of those things where you wonder. But I mean, obviously, at one point in this episode, they skipped ahead 5 or 6 months. It looked like to Walt having been there by himself for quite a while. So. They maybe do something like that as well. So yeah, I mean, I think she'll obviously be in it, but I think her and her family, I think they're the motivation, but I don't think they're going to have a huge role unless maybe someone decides to go after him and try to kill him. Which I mean, they did kind of lay the groundwork for that because the lady who's dealing meth still to Europe, she basically told Todd that she still wanted Skylar dead. So we know Todd's obviously motivated by her. So that could be part of how it plays out.
So you saw the little montage at the end where they were talking about this is they kind of showed the beginning and kind of where it all leads to.
Right.
Did you see the part where Skylar was like in the middle of the road with a whole bunch of blood on her shirt? Was that from a previous episode, or was that like a little snippet of maybe what's going to be in the season finale?
I think that was the part where Walt had run off with the baby, and he had just cut his hand because she had sliced
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I completely forgot about. I didn't forget about it. I just didn't know if that was the same scene. So we had Skylar, and then we have his son. The whole son scene with the phone call. Maybe we should talk about Pinkman first, actually.
Okay.
So Jesse's obviously locked up in that thing, and he escapes. Which, I mean, obviously this show's all. Well, we'll put like a new intro into it, but he escapes, and then they finally catch him climbing up that fence. Dude, when they put a bullet in her, dude. I was like, wow. What did you, like, that dude is ruthless. Like, that dude has no soul.
Yeah, he doesn't. And honestly, it's beyond the point of feeling bad for Jesse at this point because, I mean, it really would be merciful if someone would just kill the poor guy, because he obviously, I mean, I think he was pretty much close to the point of suicide about 3 dead girlfriends ago, and it's just like stuff just keeps happening to the poor guy, and to have to watch that happen, knowing how much he cares about not only the girl, but the fact that now her son's going to probably walk out of the house and find her like that. I mean, I can't even imagine.
And to do all this and not be able to do any drugs because he's obviously a druggie.
Right.
Dude, it's got to be like a rough time. Like, that's got to be probably the shittiest time of his life.
Yeah. That guy has gone through, I mean, I guess in one sense you think he killed the other cooker who was a pretty
the other scientist, yeah.
Who was a pretty sweet, innocent guy. So maybe you say, hey, he gets getting what he deserves, but it's hard not to just think of it as cruel and unusual at this point.
Yeah. I mean, karma comes back and bites you, but good God, it doesn't eat you whole.
And I mean, I guess this is jumping ahead a little bit, but I mean, one of the things we want to talk about is what we think will happen next week. And I really feel like they're setting up that's in some way, shape, or form, it's going to come down to a showdown between Walt and Jesse. Because I mean, that just, to me, that makes the most sense. And I think, it's if Jesse didn't have enough motivation. I mean, who else can he hate more besides Todd, maybe? Than Walt. So, I mean, Walt's put all this in motion, made all this happen. So, I mean, he's got the motivation to kill Walt for sure.
Yeah, it gets to that point in this season where who do you hate more? I mean, Todd literally killed the kid during the train whole fiasco. And now he straight up kills this lady who was just raising her kid. I mean, at the end of the day, she knew Jesse. And just because she was like Jesse's kind of girlfriend, because the bad thing that the show is amazing, but like one of the bad things about the show is every girlfriend Jesse said, they kind of just appear. Like he's always hanging out with them. They don't really show that whole connection, because I didn't even know they were like broke up a little bit.
Right.
Which is kind of weird, but, because at this point I think they're just friends, because she's always like, I haven't seen him in a couple months, but I want to make sure he's doing good, you know?
Right.
So yeah, she's just like raising her kid, and has no business being into any of this drug business at all. And to get a knock on your door and just get popped. Like, I honestly thought the little kid was going to come to the door, and I thought he was going to shoot the kid too.
Well, yeah, so did I.
So,
but, I mean, the way he did it was almost worse. I mean, obviously...
Oh, I know.
Jesse can't stop. He can't run away. He can't do anything, or that kid gets killed.
Yeah, he's just got to sit there and look at it.
And then at some point, when they're done with him, they'll kill him, you know? Like.
Oh, yeah. After all this, it's going to be for nothing anyways. Yep. So, Jesse, hopefully next week, he's got some redemption. I think he's going to end up killing Todd. He's going to find a way to kill him.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to get to the biggest thing. The old bar scene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. So he calls up old Flynn. You know, at this point, how he got his name permanently changed to Flynn, I have no idea, but good going, kid, you know, I guess. Out of all the names you picked Flynn. So he goes to the principal's office, talks to his dad, and, dude, that's some tough stuff. Your son basically just told you to just fucking die.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that was a pretty emotional scene. I mean, that's one of those scenes where, that's what I'm talking about with the Emmy, it just aggravates me, but, you know, pretty powerful. I mean, I having a kid of my own, I can't imagine, you know, someone hates you that much. And, you know, basically, I think the big thing, too, is not only does he want them to die, but, I mean, the thing he says where he's like, we don't want anything from you. And the whole time, Walt's trying to talk about how I did all this for you, and this is my life's work for you, and blah, blah, blah. And so he's rejecting all that. And so it's just all the more that, again, Walt has done all this for nothing. You know, like, it's literally, he would have been so much better off, you know, never touching any of this stuff. And then, even more than the phone call, the part that I love, because it's part of the story that it's
I know what
always
you're gonna say.
Fascinating me the most, is the gray matter.
Gray matter. That was the next thing. Well, okay, before we talk about that,
all right,
the DEA call.
Right.
I mean, he's at this point now where he's like, I'm done.
Right.
I'm done. I'm going to turn in. I'm going to die in jail. I have cancer. You know, screw it. My family hates me. My son doesn't even want to ever see me again. And I don't even want my daughter to know who I am. Right. Because at this point, it's just going to be horrible. So he ends up calling the DEA and he's like, hey, I'm Walter White. This is where I am. Come and get me, basically.
Right.
And then he sits down for a drink. And boy, I was like, this episode is missing something. And did they deliver with that interview?
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, they land Charlie Ross. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah,
Charlie
exactly,
Rose, I mean.
exactly.
I've always loved that storyline of how, you know, Walt could have been this huge success and, you know, it didn't pan out. And I think we see, there's one part when he's talking to his son and he says, you know, I did all this for you and none of it you know, I didn't intend for all these things to happen. But, when he says that, he even kind of hesitates, and I think it's interesting because he started doing all of this for them, but at some point along the way, it became about a lot more. Yeah, he became greedy, and then his interactions with that girl from Grey Matter, his ex-girlfriend or whatever, kind of catapulted him into becoming even more hardcore on the meth thing because he was almost determined, I guess, to make up for what he had lost in that business deal, basically. And so I thought that was just so great how they tied that all together. They brought that back in and showed you that he wasn't really just motivated by his family, because now at this point his family was lost to him.
Right.
And that's what his phone call to the DEA basically signified. And then all of a sudden he decides to become this badass again because he's just so enraged by what he sees on the TV. So
Well, they basically said he did nothing. He literally just came up with a name. The guy didn't even come up with any formulas or anything to help us get started.
right.
I mean, this guy should literally be a multi-billionaire right now. And if he would have just stayed on track, with his company, he wouldn't even have to do meth or anything like that. And he'd be cured of cancer just for money. The money would cure him. I mean,
Right.
Let's be serious. You get the right champion you need. And for them to just throw it in his face. But I think the best line in that whole episode was his ex-girlfriend, where she's like, Walter White's gone.
Right.
He's done. He no longer exists. And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, and she just basically says, the man I used to know is completely gone. And I think that just makes him realize, like, part of me thinks he left the DEA to get revenge against those two guys, to kind of, obviously they're going to play a part in the next episode. So I don't know if he's going to put revenge on them, because we still have that ricin pill.
Right.
And there are so many people, if I was Walter White, I'd be using that on.
Maybe does he drop the ricin on those two people from Grey Matter?
That's what I'm thinking.
Oh
I don't know.
I hadn't even thought about that until just now. Oh.
That's what I'm thinking. Either Jesse's going to take some ricin or the two people from Grey Matter. But the thing she says is just like, he doesn't exist. I don't know if maybe he left because he wants to right some wrongs, or he's just in all-out war mode.
Yeah, I mean, now that you say it that way, and this makes me think this too, is that maybe he just got done talking to his family, who basically said, you don't exist. And then he watches that and they say he doesn't exist. And maybe he just finally said, at one point earlier on in the season, we see him put that, or the episode, you see him put that Heisenberg hat on. Maybe he just decides, hey, Walter White is dead.
Yeah.
I'm Heisenberg, and I don't care about my family. I don't care about anybody. I'm just going out for all-out vengeance on everybody.
It's a blaze of glory now. And you know what? If you want to get in my arena. Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and, cutting close to like 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and who's eating the ricin next week?
I wouldn't have been able to answer that until we just had the discussion, but it's got to be for the Grey Matter people. It's got to be.
You think so? You think
has
so?
To be. He has to get them. They're going down for sure. At least the guy.
I want to be with you so much. I want to be with you on that one. I just don't know who else he would use it on.
Right.
Maybe I'm thinking, okay, either those Grey Matter people or himself.
Right. Yeah, we had talked about that before. That's a good point. Yeah, he might.
Maybe himself.
Right.
I mean, what better way to go out than? I mean, obviously you don't feel anything, you get sick, and then that's it. You're dead. And he's already sick. I mean, he's got cancer. He's taking chemo.
Right.
So I mean, it wouldn't be all you had to do is put the ricin in his little pouch or whatever, and it'd be over.
Right.
I don't know, dude. This next episode's got a lot of questions to be answered. I want to see what happens with Jesse. The ricin has got me just baffled. I don't know.
So what do you think is the ultimate? I mean, what's the final ending? I mean,
he's got to die.
Oh yeah,
he's got to die.
How? What? I mean, give me the whole spiel.
I honestly hope that it's going to be, at the end of the day, it's still going to be for his family. And I think what I hope happens is he gets some redemption from his family. Like, say, I don't know, maybe the guys, like Todd and those guys finally go and they catch up and they want to kill Walter, but they go after his family first, and Walter literally has the LMG, and he pretty much Scarfaces it, but he's getting shot at the same time.
Yeah.
And he's just doing rounds, and his family's behind him. And right. I want to see his son go up to his dying father and be like, Dad, I'm sorry. That would be my perfect ending, just because at the end of the day...
You're going for kind of a happy ending is what you're wanting to see.
Sort of, yeah.
A semi-happy ending.
Yeah, because, I mean, I hope they find out that he's the one who didn't kill Hank. All the stuff he did it for, because at the end of the day, I mean, he was doing it for his family. And he became a monster, obviously, but he still had great intentions.
Well, I'll say whatever that Vince Gilligan, the guy who made the show, decides to do, I'm going to try to be happy with, because he's led us on this great journey. And, you know, I know he's not going to just take us off like some stupid ending. Whatever it is, it's going to be what he planned from the beginning. And so I'm okay with that. But I would like to see.
Well, that's not to cut you off though. That's another thing. We talked about this a long time about all these things coming back. I never saw the gray matter thing coming back into it.
Right.
Never saw it. That was a great play. Great move.
And we talked about the preview for this final episode where they go back, and you and I talked about this off air, where they go back and they show the very first episode and they talk about Walter. They show Walter and he's in this chemistry classroom, just little teacher Walter. He hasn't done anything wrong in the whole world. And he's telling his class, chemistry is the study of transformation over time. And I think that just shows you right there how well thought out this show is, because, I mean, obviously you had that chemistry, like the BB, the elemental table, all that kind of like logos and stuff that they use and all that. And it really, I guess I never caught on that line. And now seeing where everything is, it just makes perfect sense. So for me, I know they had a plan all along where they were going with this show. This wasn't one of those things where they were like, okay, what are we going to do this season? You know, like they...
Like, okay. Hey, guys, we got a season 2. Yay.
Right. No, I mean, they obviously had a plan from day one, and that which makes it that much better for a story like this. So.
Right.
But, you know, what I think will happen is I don't think we'll get the happy ending. I mean, I'm with you. Part of me hates to see Walt go down because he does have that glimmer of a good guy still in him, and you want to kind of see him, he's going to have to die, but maybe there's some redemption there, but I don't think we're going to get it. I think, like I said, I think the ultimate showdown, the show has always been about Jesse and Walt, so I think it has to come down to those two. I think one way or another he finds these guys' hideout, he rolls in, he wastes them. At the same time, Pinkman gets loose, whatever. Maybe he kills Todd, and then there's a showdown between Walt and Jesse. And I do think maybe the ricing goes to the gray matter people. I mean, I do think that definitely the Todd and his crew are going to be threatening Walt's family, and that's just going to be more motivation for him to go kill those guys. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they clip the aunt, Hank's wife. She might get wiped out in this episode. That might be a good way to get rid of her. But then again, I mean, the family kind of needs her. I mean, they've lost so much already. You know, when Walt's gone, it might be nice to have her, but I don't know. But
here's the only other thing I could see happening, and I know they would probably do this, is it gets to we're 1 hour and 13 minutes into it, and there's like a little standoff going on, and then Heisenberg/Walt walks up to Pinkman, and Pinkman's got a gun, and Heisenberg's got a gun, and the screen goes black.
And you hear one gunshot.
Roll credits. And you hear one gunshot. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh, that would be great.
That would be fine with me. I could live with that.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, you never know I love shows that do that, because it's one of those, hey, you know, one of these guys could still be alive and you wouldn't know it.
Right. Oh, that would be you talk about the ultimate, because what do you root for? I mean, we all kind of have to hope for Pinkman because he deserves his revenge, and what's the point of Walt living and Pinkman dying when, but then at the same time, I mean, is Pinkman really going to live any better of a life than Walt is after everything
after all he's seen and been through? He's just going to
maybe it's better if it's 2 gunshots, which would be interesting.
Or the ending would be Walt shooting Pinkman and Walt swallowing a pill, and then roll credits.
Right. Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be good though. I think it's going to be probably one of the best season finales we'll see in a while for any TV show.
I think it'd be kind of cool if one or both of them drowns in 600 gallons of methylamine.
I could see that happening.
Like maybe Jesse somehow just makes Walt do that or something. That would be interesting.
Or like okay, God, I could do this for days, but the ending, they could be 2 barrels and of that acid, and you could see two bodies getting put into it, and then roll credits, and you wouldn't know what bodies, who they were. I could see that happening. There's so many, but man, it's going to be good. If you're listening to this, definitely check out some Breaking Bad. If you're on the fence about watching it, probably one of the better shows you'll ever see on TV. The stuff they get away with on regular cable TV is amazing too. We're going to wrap that up. Next week is the season finale. Make sure you check it out. I think it's next Sunday at 8 for Central Time. And
we'll be back. We'll be back with another, we'll be back to break it down with another episode.
Thanks for watching, guys. And anything else, any comments you want to leave, just put them down below and leave us a like and a favorite. And we will see you next week.
See you.